The other big Premier League news that is getting officially reported, and we've got the here we go from Fabrizio Romano, so I'm going with it, is that Frank Lampard is coming back to Stamford Bridge to see out this season. Very strange. Really looking forward to hearing the explanation for this one when it becomes official. Because the first question that I want to start with is, what is the thought process for going back to a known quantity when you have so little to lose with the rest of this season? You're squarely mid-table. There is nothing left to play for in the Premier League. Obviously, you're still in the Champions League. Now, are you really going to, make these decisions based on the hope that you beat Real Madrid to get to the semis and then somehow go on and win the competition? But that's obviously the focus at this point. Here's what Frank Lampard did in the Champions League his first run at Chelsea. In the group stage with Valencia, Lille, and Ajax, 3 wins, 2 draws, and a loss, and then lost 7-1 on aggregate to Bayern Munich in the round of 16. Year 2, 4 wins and 2 draws in the group stage with Sevilla, Rennes, and Krasnodar. He was fired before the knockout stage began, and then, of course, that team went on to win the Champions League. Those are 2 incredibly favorable groups. He did fine. He won 7 of 12 with 4 draws and a loss. Not bad. You could certainly argue Chelsea should be doing better than winning half their games in a group with Valencia, Lille, and Ajax. Now, that was also the Chelsea team that was the first Chelsea team that, Tammy Abraham in the transfer ban. So you got to give him some grace with that. But he's coached 2 knockout stage games. 7-1 against Bayern Munich was the result, if you put them together. What in his track record in the Champions League gives you confidence that he's going to be able to salvage this and that he's worth bringing in for this Champions League run? Because you're not bringing him in for anything else. That's the part of this I don't get. This isn't bringing in Thomas Tuchel to try and salvage it because you know that he can get you organized and go do what he did with the team that Lampard had really struggling. This is the guy that you fired because you didn't think he could do that. And not only does it just not make sense on that level, the other part of this is that Chelsea are playing an incredibly dangerous game here because of how many high-profile managers are available now and how many openings there are going to be by the summer. You already know Spurs are looking. And Julian Nagelsmann is high on their list too. It's hard to believe that Christophe Galtier is still managing PSG by the beginning of next season. Carlo Ancelotti may very well be on his way to managing Brazil's men's national team, so Real Madrid might have an opening. There are all kinds of situations that could result in high-profile Italian clubs having openings. The whole point of getting rid of Graham Potter was to get a jump start on this. Because again, going back to my original point, if you had nothing to lose, why not let him try and figure it out? And now, instead of doing what Bayern did, where they said, this is not sustainable, we can't wait, we need to go get our guy. Now you're making that move and then not actually going to get the guy. Because if you're comparing Chelsea to Spurs, you've got a much stronger case to convince somebody to take your job. If you're comparing it to Real Madrid, good luck, and even PSG. The whole the whole benefit of making the managerial change now is that you were ahead of those teams, and that right now I feel like they're at the top of the pecking order. And maybe Nagelsmann said no, but that's not what is being reported. That doesn't seem to be the case. He seems to still be very much in consideration for this job. You're just making your life harder by not making your decision now. Because if you put it off, in particular Nagelsmann, but some of these guys are probably going to get impatient. They're not going to sit around waiting to take a job that just had the owner fire 2 managers in the span of a season, one of whom was supposed to be the long-term project guy. At a club with way too many players that doesn't have any kind of cohesive plan, yes, it's Chelsea, I get it. But when you're up against so many other jobs that are comparable, all that stuff is going to turn people away from you. And PSG and Real Madrid, hypothetically, are going to be going after the same managers you are. And you're going to lose out to at least Real Madrid and probably PSG too, assuming both those jobs open up. That's one of the most baffling parts of this to me. I don't see the upside in bringing Lampard in. And all it is just making your life more difficult to try and find the guy who's ultimately going to take over. And from Lampard's standpoint, I mean, you don't have that much to lose. If they go on a run, it helps you get back, some of that credibility as a guy who has gotten fired from the last 2 jobs he's taken. Also the fact that, Everton are doing better under Dyche, so that's not a great look for him. This just doesn't make sense to me. And I feel like that's pretty much the consensus. We'll see how it goes. I really struggled to figure out the why and what the logic behind this is, other than, he's more experienced than Bruno. Why not see if Bruno can manage? What's the harm in that? Because if you're that serious about the Champions League, Frank Lampard's not the guy you're bringing in. So, this will be intriguing and fascinating, if nothing else. I just don't see it really changing much in the long term.